And now, Mr. Maurice Stein.
In Toluca Lake, California, there is a beauty supply store that is called Cinema Secrets. And Cinema Secrets is the creation of its founder and its president, Mr. Maurice Stein. Now, Maurice and I go back a long way in this industry. We worked together many, many times. And he is, aside from being a really great makeup artist, he has been a friend of mine for many years. Unfortunately, a long time has gone by since I saw Maurice, and in a very historic interview, we once again got together. You're not going to want to miss this interview between yours truly and the president and founder of Cinema Secrets, Mr. Maurice Stein. Welcome back. Joe Blasco here for MUA TV, and my very special guest and longtime friend, who I haven't seen in a while, by the way, and I'm glad to be seeing you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maurice Stein, ladies and gentlemen. Maurice Stein. Maurice, we go way back. Way back. I mean, further back than either of us want to admit.
Do you remember how far back?
Oh, yeah. I I'm going to tell you something. Your father.
You remember?
Your father. There was a union. I think there still is. Does NABID still exist?
Yeah.
NABID still exists. Yeah, NABID still exists. National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians, AFL-CIO, I think, maybe,
yep,
something like
that.
And that union was a competing union, so to speak, with the IA, International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, IATSE. And we who weren't part of the IA yet were members of NABID. And there were some who were also IA members who were part of NABID, and one of them was your father.
Correct.
Gene Stein.
That's right.
Spelled with a J. And you'll see Gene's name in the opening credits of our MUA TV broadcast every time it opens, 3-4 times a day. And I'll tell you why, because he was very special to me, and you probably didn't know this, he really helped me tremendously when I was just a kid. And I was given my union test by your father.
That I knew.
Yeah, yes, and he failed me the first time.
That I knew also.
He failed me the first time, and he came in and he said to me, he said, "Kid," he says, "you're really good, but I don't know. I don't know that I can pass you the first time." He says, I want you to go out and, it might look bad. He says, "I want you to go out and work 6 more months. Work 6 more months." And I got to tell you something, it's a good damn thing that I did, because I was really wet behind the ears, and he permitted me to get more experience, and it drove me harder. It made me move faster, and so that was your dad.
Were you 18? Or were you 19?
I was just 18,
Just
I think.
18.
I just turned 18.
You were young.
Yeah, because I had graduated high school early.
Well, yeah, you know what? He was very proud of you. He really was. He spoke about you a lot. He really did.
That's great to know.
And I had no idea that his name is up
Oh,
in
yeah.
lights on your program.
Oh, yeah, it's been up since the very beginning, since the first broadcast.
Well, that makes me even more excited to be here and to be one of your guests.
Well, it's good. It's good after so many years to see you again.
And
you've been busy. My God, you've been busy.
No, I'm retired.
No, yeah, right. You're retired like I'm retired. I don't think so.
I tell everybody that now that I'm retired, I only come into the business about 5 days a week.
Hey, only 5.
Yeah.
Instead of the usual 6 or 7.
7. Well, right now it is 7.
Yeah.
Because of our Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Now he has an incredible store in Burbank. Is it Burbank? It's Toluca Lake, right?
Toluca Lake.
It's Toluca Lake,
Well,
which is
Toluca
right
Lake
adjacent.
is part of Burbank.
Right, it's adjacent to Burbank, on Riverside Drive.
Right.
And you've had that store for a long time now.
24 and a half years.
That's amazing. Now, is it not in this location, because you had the other location first?
Well, we
Right.
were across the street from NBC,
right.
for 3 years and outgrew it really in 8 months.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get out of the lease for 3 years. So once we did, we moved to this location. And we've been there for almost 22 years now.
Right. It's a huge facility. You've got stock. He's got stock there coming out of his ears. And it's amazing during Halloween. I've never seen so, not just makeup, But costumes, wigs, decorative jewelry, for use during Halloween. But it's an amazing business that you've started. I mean, you've become famous for the Halloween business, aside from everything that you do in beauty makeup and everything that you've accomplished, because his store is, obviously, because he has history in Hollywood as a makeup artist. You did Golden Girls. I mean, there's all sorts of. We're going to talk about Maurice's career, but you've taken it beyond just a regular beauty supply, and you've built it into a business that during Halloween, it's like the place to go.
Well, what we actually did is during my movie and television career as a makeup artist and doing all the special effect movies,
right,
as well as the regular type of films, right, and TV, right, shows, I kept a lot of the molds and a lot of the things. And when I started Cinema Secrets, I started having people say, do you have anything left from that movie you worked on? I worked on a movie called MASH. And I had some injury molds, right, left from that, and I had some molds left from Catch-22, right, and from Star Trek, and just different things, right, and I made pieces from them. Right. And then we made more pieces and more pieces. And the next thing I knew, we had a Halloween business going, to where now we have probably about 75% of the store, right, is transformed into a Halloween venue.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. That's really amazing. And the Wuchi products, Maurice Cinema Secrets bought the Wuchi company.
There was
Tell us about that.
Well, there was a man by the name of Batson who passed away, and his children took over this little company where they made little artificial injuries out of latex. Exactly the same thing that we were doing. And because the man that created it passed away, the kids were trying very hard to keep the company going. They just were failing. My two sons, who are my partners, came to me and said, Dad, isn't there any way we can save the company and use it ourselves? Long story short, we bought the company, saved it, and kept adding to it. And because the name Wuchi, which means absolutely nothing. I never found out what it meant. But because he created the name, right, in reverence to him, I wanted to keep the name. Right. So what we did is we said, it's Cinema Secrets presents Wuchi. And now Wuchi is known all over the world. I still, to this day, have no idea what Wuchi means. But people come in and they say, I want one of those Wuchi pieces.
Right. And there are a lot of them. There's foam latex, there's shell rubber, there's or slip rubber pieces. Yeah. There's foam latex pieces, right, noses, cheek pieces, forehead pieces, cheek, chin pieces, everything.
Well, most of them they can go online and they can see them all now. And the nice thing is all the latex pieces, from a little piece that could be just a cut that goes on the face. One of our favorite ones that I love using is it's a bolt. And it's in two pieces. So you glue on one part of the bolt on this side, and you glue the other edge of it on here, and it looks like it's going through the face. But the beauty of all those rubber pieces, they can be used 100 times, yeah, and they're not expensive. Yeah. $6, $7, $8 a piece. That's all.
Right. No, that's tremendous. That's great. But you have wigs. You have costumes. How did you get into the costume end of it as well? I mean, you're it's a one-stop shop.
Costumes was a mistake. We had all these makeup items, and then we needed some wigs to go with the makeups. And then people said, well, you have the makeup, you have the wig, what am I going to wear?
Right.
The next thing I knew, we hired some costume designers. We designed some costumes, and we started making it at our own facility.
And you're going to be seeing, because you're going to be seeing a tour that we videotaped at Cinema Secrets, and you're going to see really that these costumes are not the typical, inexpensive, cheap little costumes that you get, at a regular costume type store. These are reasonably priced, but they're very, very high quality. And I mean, they're like right out of a clothing store.
We made it a point to have costumes that the average person could enjoy wearing, but right, would not have to worry about it taking all the right money out of their pocketbook.
You're competing with with Western Costume. I bet you're giving them a run for their money.
You know what? The president of Western Costume is a young man who I grew up with working on the set. He was a costume designer. Many times he sends people over to us to buy costumes.
Right.
And many times when people come to us and say, we want something more high-end, we send them over to Western Costume, so we don't really compete.
Yes, yes. Now you have Cinema Secrets makeup also.
Yeah, we created a line of cosmetics about 19 years ago, and it's done very well. We sell it in the studios. My enjoying of it is working with cancer survivors and burn survivors.
Yes.
That's really what I do more than anything.
Yeah, that's really incredible what you're doing.
I use it to work with people who have skin discoloration problems.
Yes.
And I call that my hobby, because to me a hobby, you know, if you think about it, a hobby is something you do in your spare time that you get a lot of enjoyment out of, and the bottom line, it usually ends up costing you a lot of money.
Right.
Isn't that
But you're helping a lot of people.
Well, that's why I do it. And I work locally here. I work with Children's Hospital, and I work with the Shrine Hospital here with their burn survivors.
That's true.
And I worked with a young lady that came over from Iraq. She had brain cancer, and they removed the top of her skull to clean it up, and she had no hair left. So one of the things they wanted to do was to do some kind of a transplant on her. So I did some consulting work, but the side of her face also needed makeup so that she could go back into society without people staring at her. And by putting the makeup on, she was able to go out into society and look natural.
Do you work with plastic surgeons?
I have a lot of plastic surgeons that call me, and a lot of them carry our product, but a lot of them use me for consulting purposes.
Well, they're smart. They're smart because they know that when they call you, you know, you come from years and years of experience in the business. Let's talk about that. How'd you get started? When did you know that you wanted to be a makeup artist? Your father is a makeup artist, right?
My father was a makeup artist. He was a police officer many years ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my father. Actually, you want to hear something funny? I was doing a pilot called The Police Story, and the producer of The Police Story was telling me about a project that he was working on. And while he was talking to me, he's telling me about this space project that he's working on, and he's telling me about these aliens and everything and all the special effects, and he's liked me to work on it and maybe, you know, gaff the thing. And I said, you know, this was in 1961 when I was just starting. And I said, this is really just a little bit above and beyond my pay scale. I said, but I think you should talk to John Chambers, who's the man that created Planet of the Apes. I said, because he's really the person that can. Meanwhile, we're talking, he's writing John's name down, and we're talking a little. He says, well, would you like to work on it with him? And I said, well, sure, but now we're still talking. And he says, by the way, what's your last name? And I told him, because he knew my first name only. He says, oh, Stein. Yeah, he says, you know, I knew a Stein. I said, really? He says, yeah, he was my partner.
Oh, my God.
Your partner in what? He says, well, when we were cops. I said, my dad was a cop. And he goes, was your dad Gene Stein? And I said, he grabs me and gives me a hug, and he gives me a kiss on the cheek. He goes, your father was my partner when we were cops.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
my God.
Gene Roddenberry, the man that created Star Trek, was my father's partner when they were in
So
their,
Gene Roddenberry was a police officer.
He was a policeman before he was a big producer.
So we have two Genes.
Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, Gene Roddenberry is spelled with a G, G-E-N-E, and your father was J-E-A-N, right? That's an amazing story. Oh, my God. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And that's probably how, I don't know if it was because I was a good makeup artist or because my father was his partner when he was a police officer.
Now, tell me this.
Talk about nepotism.
What was it like growing up in Hollywood with your father being a makeup artist?
Well, my father, I guess during that generation, was like a lot of other fathers. It was like, you're on your own. Prove yourself. And a lot of fathers were like that. And I feel that it was, as he said to you, you got to go back out and you got to prove yourself. That's why he flunked you the first time, and you said it was the best thing that ever happened.
Do we have to talk about that again?
No, but it's true. With me, it was the same thing. My father didn't help me because he wanted me to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. I never resented it because I've always done that.
It made
my
you
whole
stronger.
life. And I have 3 partners in my business. My wife, I have 4 partners. My wife and my children. They're all equal partners. They all carry their own weight. I have one son who was a makeup artist.
Which one is the makeup artist?
The oldest one, Michael, was a makeup artist. He was the second makeup artist.
Doesn't Danny do makeup? Danny does makeup.
Michael quit college and became a makeup artist. He was the second makeup artist with me on Golden Girls.
Oh, my.
So after I retired and went back into the industry on Golden Girls, I got to do my retiring years working with my son. I couldn't have asked.
That's great.
For a better way.
And on such a great show, too.
My younger son
show.
was a college graduate, and that's what he does in the business now, the marketing and the business end and the accounting.
Right.
My daughter quit college and went to cosmetology school. So she runs the beauty, wig, and the hair care part of the company. She does all the ordering and the business end of that.
Is Michael working as a makeup artist in the industry as well?
No, not anymore. He's too busy.
You keep him very busy.
He runs the whole Halloween division.
Wow.
And the special effects division.
Wow.
So that's a multi-million-dollar business right
That's
now.
amazing. That's great.
It's growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
Isn't there a commercial about growing? Something. Yeah.
You know what we're going to do? Speaking of commercials, we're going to stop just for 1 second, and we're going to be right back with Mr. Maurice Stein. Don't you go away. We're back with Maurice Stein. Maurice, you've got a lot of history in this business. You were one of the many makeup artists on Planet of the Apes. I mean, that's historic.
Yeah.
You know, you worked with Johnny Chambers on Planet of the Apes. You did just so many films. Heart Bleeps. Didn't you do Heart Bleeps? You did Heart Bleeps, too.
Was that it?
Yeah.
You know, I forgot.
The gelatin makeups that were done. You and Stan Winston, I think, worked together on that, didn't you?
Poor Stan.
Yeah. Yeah, we've just lost.
I have to
Stan.
tell you a cute story about Stan.
Okay.
People would love to hear this. When Stan was an apprentice for a man whose picture you have over there, Stan came over to my home one time to pick something up for the head of Disney Studios. And
Bob Schiffer.
Bob Schiffer, right. And he came to the front door. I opened the door, and Stan, and I have one of those homes that has a double door.
Right.
You know, a nice size house with a double door. And Stan stood in the doorway, and he looked at the double door, and he looked at my house, and he goes, "Someday I want to have a house like this." Okay, flash 25 years later.
Yeah, yes.
We're at the Academy Award dinner or something where we're both sitting at a table in black tie. It's some affair.
Tuxedos.
And we're in tuxedos. He's sitting at a table next to me, and I haven't seen Stan in maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And we're sitting at tables adjacent to each other. So we see each other, and we get up, and we give each other a big hug and a kiss and everything. And he asked me how everything is, and I said, "Stan, you're a shit." And he says, "What?" I said, "Stan, do you remember a few years ago when you came to my house and you stood there and you looked at my house through the front doors and you said that you wished someday you could have a house?" He said, yeah, I remember that." I said, "Stan, your garage is bigger than my whole house now." Because he had. If anybody watching doesn't know, Stan passed away just recently.
Yeah. We did a memorial for him.
He had a garage that encompassed all of his cars and his motorcycles and his toys that was very large, and he had a big, beautiful home.
He was a great guy.
He was a lot of fun.
I watched him do a makeup one time at ABC, because I was the golden boy, so to speak, at ABC.
Rudy's boy.
Yeah, Rudy's boy. Rudy put me on everything. And I got a call one day from Rudy. He says, "Joe," he says, "you know, you want to do prosthetics." He says, "I want you to watch this guy's going to come in, he's going to do an abominable snowman, right? I said, okay. So I went, and he brought me down there, and he introduced me to Stan Winston, right? And he says, now you go sit in the corner over there, right? So I sat, and you watch everything he does, because we may need to do this someday, right? So I sat in the corner, and Stan was such a great guy, you know, and he after Rudy walked out of the room, he says, get over here. He says, you're not going to sit in the corner. He says, come on over here. He says, let me show you what I'm working with here. So he showed me. He was working with acrylic paints. Now, this was before Pax paint, right? Before Pax paint. So he was already experimenting with working.
In the 80s?
Oh, no, it was like the early 1970s. It had to be like 72, 71. You know, I'm sure that this is before Pax Paint. Well, we're going to be talking to Dick Smith soon on the show. And so Dick will let us know if that was before Pax Paint or not. But anyway, make a long story short, he showed me all these acrylic paints, and he was mixing them with this liquid medium he had. It was called matte medium. And he poured the matte medium down on the palette. Then he took a little bit of each one of these tubes, and he'd squeeze a little, you know, dot of each one of the colors onto all these little areas of matte medium, and he'd mix them around. And I said, well, what is that? He says, oh, that's an acrylic medium. He says, but when it dries like a sealer, and it dries matte. And so he's showing me how to apply it and all this and that. And that was the very beginning of my advanced prosthetic makeup application instruction, was from Stan Winston. And it was using the beginnings. He was like pioneering those products, you know, that we are now using today. And instead of using matte medium, today we use Prosate.
Prosate.
And we mix the color into the Prosate. But that was a great experience. And, you know, obviously he wasn't, you know, he wasn't Stan Winston at the time, you know, and I wasn't Joe Blasco at the time.
That was 35 years ago.
Yeah, 35 years ago. It's a long time ago. So we were just, you know, both of us were on our way up. But he was a real hell of a nice guy, great guy, and he was very, very talented. And he went on then after that. I think the first thing he did was the story of Miss Jane Pittman. I think he worked with Rick Baker.
Yeah, that's the thing that started
really
Stan
just
on his way
shot
up in
him.
his career.
Yeah, absolutely did. But let's talk about you. You know, you're a young man at home. Your father is a makeup artist, and obviously this had to have had some kind of influence on you. What was it that your father did in makeup that really made you say to yourself, you know, I think I want to do this too?
I probably saw the biblical makeups that he was doing and was impressed. He was a Shriner and a Mason.
Right.
And I went with him a few times and watched some of the things he was doing with all the hair work.
Oh, yeah.
And I was also a hairdresser.
Yes. I didn't know that. You were?
Yeah. I've been a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser before.
Yeah.
And that's another story, because...
That'll be another interview.
No, that was funny. My first day in the business was the funniest story.
Oh, you got to tell us. But let's get back to first your father.
Well, because I was proficient with hair, when I saw him working with beards and mustaches and everything, I wanted to do that, and to be able to do that and have it be done for posterity.
Yes.
And to be able to do a beard.
Yes.
And know that somebody was going to take a picture of it, or a moving picture, and it would be there for many, many more years.
Yes. Yes.
That's what interested me in being able to start to do something like that. And that's really, in my mind, how I started.
Yeah,
but
that's great.
I have to tell you that I finally was offered a job at Columbia Studios by a man that you and I know,
Benny Lane,
who said, "Yeah, kid, we'd like to hire you." He said, "Well, I can't work full time because I have my own business. I had a salon, and I'm going to make this story very short."
What year was this?
1961.
Oh, wow!
A couple of years ago. I said, "I can only work on Mondays and maybe sometimes Tuesdays." "What do you mean you're telling me when?" I said, "Look, I have a job, I have a family. I mean, I have a business, I have a family. If you need me, I'm available on Monday, Tuesday, and maybe some Sundays."
Right.
I didn't want to give up every Sunday. I said, "Okay, I'll keep it in mind." And in those days, you had to be in the union, but if the union members were all busy working, they would scrounge for just about anybody.
Right.
So all of a sudden, one day, I get a call on a Sunday night, report at 5:48 in the morning, Columbia Studios. Well, in those days, it was all very proper. You dressed very professional. So I went to work in a pair of black loafers, pair of black polyester pants, not wool, a short sleeve white shirt with a black thin tie, a black alpaca. If you don't know what alpaca is, it's a fancy sweater that's very thin. And I showed up at 5:30 instead of 5:48. And I went in to where I was supposed to go, gave them my name. The guy looked on the clipboard, saw my name. He says, yeah, go over there and get on the bus. And I'm thinking, this is cool. They take me on a bus to drive me to one of the stages. So I go and my first day, and they said, don't bring anything, we'll furnish everything. So I go and I get on the bus and I look around, everybody's getting on the bus, and the first thing they do is go to sleep. So I just sit down and I'm like this. Bus is full. They read off, make sure everybody's on there, and the bus takes off, and we drive through the Columbia Studios, and we go out down Goward. I'm thinking, oh, they must be going around the other. I don't know. The next thing I know, we're driving away from the studio. Hey, I'm getting paid. It's my first day in the movies. We're driving 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Everybody's sleeping, snoring, whatever. 45 minutes later, I wake up, and it's pitch black. The door opens, everybody gets off. I step off in my black leather shoes, and I step off into about 4 inches of desert dust.
Oh,
we're out in Gorman, where I go motorcycle riding with my kids.
Right.
And it's freezing, even though it's the summer. And I go where they tell me, to the tent. They read off my name. Yeah, go over there. I go over there, and they hand me this thing called pancake.
Yeah, Max Factor pancake.
Okay. Well,
and by the way, Gorman, this is worldwide.
Yeah.
This isn't just national.
Gorman is desert.
Yeah, it's
where I go motorcycle riding.
And it's
dirt bike.
freezing.
Yes.
It is freezing.
They hand me this Max Factor pancake and a sponge in this hand, and the water's right there. And they said, go make those guys up. And I'm thinking, I'm a hairdresser. What am I doing? Now, understand that in the 60s, only men did makeup and women did the hair.
That's right.
I didn't know that. So I don't know what this is and this is, because I ain't never done this before. So luckily, there was like 8 guys lined up here on these little pedestals that turned around, and there's 8 makeup artists lined up with these things going like this and going like this on the front of the guys in the back. So I'm looking, and I got a bit of a brain up here, so I tell the guy, I'm gonna do your back first, turn around.
Yeah.
So he don't know how stupid I am. So now I'm going like this. The guy's here.
So you're doing body makeup.
I'm going like this. I'm not even looking at the guy. I'm looking at what the guy next to me is doing, and I'm going like this and doing exactly what that was.
That's
my
great.
first day in the business.
Oh my God!
Had no
That's
idea
terrific.
what
was it? Can you remember the name of the film?
I don't remember. It was a shoot 'em up, bang bang Western movie where I was making up Indians. Of course, they never hired Indians in those days.
Right.
They hire guys from college that are as fair-skinned as can be, and we had to make them look dark.
Oh my God! Isn't
But
that
it
amazing?
was a real experience. And then they wanted me to come back the next day because I did such a good job. And
That'll teach you.
I said,
God, what
I
a sad
can't.
commentary that is on makeup of the day. Guy, you didn't even know what you were doing, and they
I
brought you
had
back.
no idea. They wanted
Isn't
me to come
that's
back the next
terrific.
day.
We've both worked with people like that, haven't we? Years
Oh,
later,
God.
who would come in with a pancake and a box of Kleenex, and just kind of phony baloney their way through it. But it's good that because I started that way too.
Yeah.
And
A lot of us did.
Oh yeah, but that's how it is, and it's all from experience. So now, your father, was he supportive? When obviously
He was very proud of me. He really was.
Yeah.
And
Did he ever give you a test and fail you?
nope, he never did. I actually went down and helped him, which he was surprised that I was as proficient as I was.
Right.
I was very lucky. Once I started doing that, that's when they started taking some of the youngsters
Yeah.
and training us because they saw that the industry was exploding.
Yes.
And they needed more proficient makeup
Right,
artists
right.
that knew more than how to do this.
What about, you weren't part of the apprenticeship program?
No, I wasn't an apprentice. What they had is a program where they were going to start training some of the, I don't even remember what they called us, but they took 31 of us and some of the top makeup artists in different areas. A man by the name of Harry Merritt.
Oh,
who was-
yeah.
He was Doris Day's makeup
Yeah,
artist.
really terrific makeup
He was
artist.
also the head of CBS makeup department. Perce Westmore, who was one of the
Warner
founders of the
Brothers.
Westmore family. There were some wonderful teachers, and they started having classes for us.
How amazing was
And
that?
I
to
remember-
be taught by Perce Westmore
Yeah,
and
well,
Harry Merritt.
And I
That's
remember being
amazing.
locked.
Oh,
They literally almost, Perce Westmore
Wow.
almost locked me, sequestered me for 3 months. I got paid, once I committed to doing this full time,
Right.
I got paid to be locked up every day for 10 hours a day at the upstairs above the Columbia Studios makeup department. I went up there every
little lab,
day
that little lab.
and did hair work.
Oh, wow.
I blended and hackled and crimped hair for 3 months because they found out I was a hairdresser and I knew how to do this.
Right.
So I got paid to learn.
That's terrific.
I mean, they don't do that. The studios don't do that
Are you
today.
still laying hair? Are you still?
Yeah, I just did a class for, I just did a free class for a lot of union members because there's still a lot of them that
Right.
don't know how to do a lot
Oh,
of the
yeah, I
little
know that.
nuances.
Does Cinema Secrets sell raw hair, real hair?
We have every kind and every color of raw hair and crimped hair. I also have probably the most advanced crimper in the world in my facility that I spent a fortune designing and building.
Oh, you had this made. Do
I
you
had it
remember
made.
the old bow tie crimpers that we used to use?
Very similar to what I have,
Right.
but what I did is I had a big motor built onto it.
Right.
If anybody's ever been around a sewing machine with those foot pedals.
Right, right.
Well, this has a foot pedal on it so that you can control the speed of this thing.
Wow.
And
Terrific.
I had a makeup artist in the other day who's coming by to use it, I think this Friday.
Can we send hair over there to be?
Oh, yeah.
And if we buy hair from you, you can
Yeah,
crimp it.
you can
So
send-
if you need hair, for anything that you're working on, you can get it from Cinema Secrets, and they will actually crimp it for you as well.
Or you can buy hair already crimped.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can-
Very good.
either way.
Now, do you crimp it with different types of wave?
No,
or
I
they all-
only have one
Like a little
set.
quarter-inch type,
Yeah,
the
it
custom.
only has
yeah.
one set of rollers on
I
it.
see, I see.
But it's the best thickness of crimping
Right,
that you
for
can
that.
get, so
Right.
it works fine.
Right, exactly.
If you want to get it crimped even tighter, you go at a slower pace. If you want it at a wider, then you go faster.
I see.
So that's how you can
So they
control it.
these heat,
Well,
right?
the combination of the heat and the speed will
Yes.
control the amount
amount of wave.
groove that you get
Yes,
into it.
yes, and that gives you the wave. And you know what? You must then sell chopped hair. Do you have chopped hair?
No,
No.
no.
But you
It's
show makeup
too-
artists how to do
I
it.
show them how to do it. It became too labor intensive to
Right,
sell it.
right.
And to make it. So
Right.
what I'll do is
That's smart. You know, let me tell you, let me explain why I say that's smart. It's because if you can't do it, or if you're not going to do it, then you don't want to sell something that isn't quite right. And I've seen other
Oh,
chopped hair
jeez, yeah.
that's straight and it's just chopped up and there's no curve to it whatsoever. And when you do really good chopped hair, and Ben Nye taught me, he taught me
Yeah.
how to lay hair.
Ben Nye Sr.
Yeah, senior, Ben Nye Sr. He and Ben Nye Jr. is a wonderful makeup artist as well, but Ben Nye Sr. is the one who taught me. And you crimp it, and it's a C shape, and you cut it at the apex of the curve, and you end up not with little straight pieces of hair, but you end up with little C shapes.
Little C's, right.
And then you bunch them all together, and then you
Into a ball.
And then you press and you pull the ball apart like that, and what you have is all the little ends sticking out. Put the adhesive on the skin, and you just press it like this right onto the skin. And you're gonna be seeing that because we have demonstrations. We're gonna have demonstrations of that right here on MUA TV.
I did that. Matter of fact, I did a class of that 15 years ago in Norway.
Wow.
And I should bring a picture one day.
No, I'd love to see it.
I was doing a class with about 30 girls because they didn't have any guys that were doing it. And we were doing a full week of special effect makeup there.
Right.
And the last day was all hair. And none of them wanted to do beards on their faces.
Right.
And the day before, they tell me this. And I said, tomorrow we're scheduled to do beards.
Right.
Well, you want to just skip tomorrow and go to the beach? They said, no. I said, then everybody come in either in a short skirt or wear shorts because we're going to do beards on your knees.
Exactly.
Well, that day they came in and I handed them all eyebrow pencils and they drew faces on their knees. And some of them drew
funny.
it upside down, and they all laid hair.
That's great.
Some of them did it upside down. Well, it was so cute that I got about a dozen of them together, had them sit on the floor, and I took pictures. And I found a picture last year.
Oh, that's great.
And I'll bring it to you,
Oh,
Joe.
please, please.
It's adorable.
That's great. You know, this reminds me, Ben and I actually taught me how to do eyebrows that way and to lay hair as well.
On your
Yeah,
here.
right on my
No,
the top part of my
I
leg
never
here.
let a student say that I don't have a model because
Exactly.
you're walking around with two models
That's
all
right.
the time,
Yeah,
right?
you
here.
just put your foot up on something,
Yeah,
and
on
put
a
the
stool.
adhesive on your leg like that,
And you lay
lay
hair.
the hair,
Lay eyebrows.
and eyebrows too. I mean, not lay eyebrows, but actually sketch
Yeah.
with a pencil.
What about the ones that complain that they
Isn't that
can't
great?
do? The ones that complain I can't draw lips. Right here, you can practice
Exactly.
all day on
Yeah,
lips.
Exactly. That's terrific. The makeup business, you and I have seen a lot of changes in the makeup business.
Every
and
day.
in products, lots of changes in products. Airbrush makeup. Are you doing much with airbrush? Do you have an
We-
airbrush product? What do you think
we-
of airbrush?
You see how quiet I got?
Yes.
Airbrush, to me, is a pain in the rear end.
I'm glad to hear somebody else say it.
But you know what? it has its place.
Oh, absolutely does.
Because people love it.
Yeah.
I find when I see, and a lot of you out there do make a lot of money with an airbrush, but you got to carry that big compressor with you, and when you're in the middle of doing an airbrush makeup and the gun jams on you,
Right.
or you clean it and the needle gets bent and now the
Right.
needle's no good. And you know what? I've never had that problem with my makeup case.
Right.
And maybe it's because I got all this white hair and this white beard. I'm old-fashioned. But I work as well with an airbrush
Yeah.
as I do with a paintbrush.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can do everything with a paintbrush. Matter of fact, when I teach, I have a little 3-day class that I teach. I've started doing something that's a lot of fun. I can show a class how to do an eye that looks just like you've airbrushed it, but I can do it in 7 seconds and make it look better than you can with an airbrush in 30 seconds.
Yeah. I believe that.
And I
believe
always
that.
win 11 cents because that's what I bet the students. And then I make them pay me over 12 payments.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to do that on the air.
Okay.
But you know what I really would like you to do?
Yes.
Is one day, aside from going and talking to the students, I really would like you to come in and show that technique to the class.
All right.
Right?
It'll
And-
take 7 seconds.
And anything else that you would like to demonstrate. And I want the class to know what is available to them at Cinema Secrets. You know what? We're going to stop just for 1 second.
Okay.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Maurice Stein right after this.
Joe, you know what it is?
Welcome back. Joe Blasco here on MUA TV, and we have Mr. Maurice Stein. Let's talk about your career. I have right here to the left of me so many pictures of so many actors and actresses and makeup artists that you've worked with. And let's talk about this. Did you do the makeup for the Flying Nun?
Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest makeups I feel that I've ever done.
Why is that?
Well, think about it, Joe.
She was flying around. You couldn't.
Well, yeah, I couldn't fly as well as her.
Get down here.
Well, here's a young girl, not much older than you were when you were.
Yeah, when I was
starting, but she had a typical face of a 18, 19-year-old girl,
Right.
which means it wasn't in perfect shape. But when you're working with a nun, in reality, they, especially in those days, weren't supposed to be wearing makeup.
Right, exactly.
So in essence, what I was doing is I was supposed to be putting makeup on somebody who wasn't supposed to wear makeup.
But they had to look great.
They had to look good. So I had to do a makeup that didn't look like makeup.
Absolutely.
And that's why I say I feel it was one of the hardest makeups I had to do.
Right.
Also, it was one of the more thankless ones because whenever we do, we're all creative people.
Right.
We want thank yous. We
Yeah.
want accolades.
Yeah.
Well, I learned very young in my career, the best accolades any of you can ever have is when you finish your job and nobody says anything about it. Remember that. Because what it means is that the makeup you did completely fits the character. And if it fits the character, it doesn't stand out as
Right.
a bizarre.
Right. Doesn't call attention to itself.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I learned that a long time ago. So
Yeah.
making her up to look like she had no makeup
Right.
on
Right.
was
Great
a real
job.
challenge
Great
every
job.
day. And I did that for several years.
Yeah, that was at Columbia Pictures,
Columbia
wasn't it?
Pictures,
Sure,
yes,
with Benny
yes.
Lane. Now were you department head on Funny Girl? Did you do?
I worked on Funny Girl, on Barbra Streisand, for 3 days.
You did. That's fantastic.
3 days.
What was it like? You know, we just interviewed David DeLeon.
Really?
Who's been working with Barbra Streisand.
I-
Tell us
I-
about Barbara then, because
She is no different today. She's brilliant.
Yeah, she is, isn't she?
And I remember
What a talented girl.
I had just finished doing Planet of the Apes, the first Planet of the Apes. And we worked on all these apes and gorillas, and
Right.
I had orange and brown and
Right.
glue still under my nails and everything.
Do you know who made the makeup that you had under your nails?
You're going to tell me.
You're looking at him.
Really?
I was working with Ben Nye at his little shop on Santa Monica
Boulevard?
That's right.
That's right,
And he
you
was
did.
training me to make makeup. That's how I learned how to make makeup.
Oh, for God's
And
sakes.
that was one of my first jobs,
All that stuff.
to make the rubber grease
The
that we
rubber
now
grease
call
stuff.
Appliance Foundation.
Appliance Foundation,
You know,
yeah.
for Planet of the original Planet of the Apes that Johnny
Yeah,
changed.
this was the first Planet of the Apes that we spent almost 6 months
Yeah,
prepping.
yeah.
I remember when John called me. He called me on a Saturday afternoon. He says, "You want to come over for lunch?" And I was always felt privileged when he said, "You want to come over for lunch?" And I'd come over there and have lunch. And he says, "Listen, we're working on this project with some gorillas and monkeys, and we're going to go to the zoo and look at them." And I'm going, Johnny's a little on the left-hand side of, but okay, I'll go, because he lived close to the zoo.
Right.
And anyway, that's how it all started.
That's terrific.
But
There were a lot of makeup artists on Planet of the Apes.
well,
there were like
originally
300.
there were 6 of us that worked together
Right.
to start. And then there were 8, and then each one of the 8 of us.
You did a principal character.
Yeah,
on
but
it.
each one of the 8 of us was responsible for training 6 more makeup artists.
How many finally ended up? I heard something like 300.
No, there was about 40,
40, yeah, that
something
sounds more like it,
regulars.
yeah.
And then there was a lot of them that came in,
Right,
other ones.
yeah.
And I originally did some of the principals, and then what happened was Johnny and then Dan Strepek, the
Yeah.
head of it, came to me and he said, "Look, I would like you to start doing more than just one principal and standing by all day.
Right.
We've got all these people to make up.
Right.
So I loved it because it meant that I came in the morning, did a makeup, and didn't have to go stand on the set all day.
Right.
I did 3 to 4 makeups a day.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
An
They were
18
two and a half hours,
No,
or 3
and a
hours.
half.
Wow.
It actually ended up, when you consider your setup time,
Yes.
your makeup, and your cleanup time, it's
Yes.
about 4 hours.
Yes.
So when you figure you're doing 4 of them, that's 16 hours,
Yeah, that's
without
amazing.
exaggeration.
That's
And
amazing.
in between that, you got to find time to eat,
Right.
go to the bathroom. And when we were working out at Fox Ranch out here,
Right.
had to find time to go home and go to bed. So it didn't leave you much time. Our call usually was at 4:48 in the morning. And I'd get off around 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. And when the movie was over, I bought my first house.
Ah, that's great. That's
Yep.
amazing. That's fantastic. Maurice has been around for a long time. He's done so many things, probably things that you're not even aware of. But-
Things I forgot about.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think the fact that you were there working on Planet of the Apes, you're part of makeup history, Maurice. There aren't that many makeup artists today, honestly, that can say that they were there at that time. I think, Johnny is gone now, and Ben is gone.
Yeah.
Dan is still with us.
Dan's-
And I'd love to have Dan come in and
You should
to talk
ask
to Dan.
him
Yeah, I
if he
will. I'll be
will.
calling Dan Streetbeck, I think, during my next visit when we come back. But that's such an amazing story. And there are pictures here of Maurice with Johnny Chambers. And here is a great picture here of the Golden Girls.
The girls.
Tell us about this. Now, you worked Golden Girls for quite some time.
Yeah, the whole.
Now, you
the
went
whole-
from Planet of the Apes, doing apes, to
Yeah.
doing these beauties here.
Yeah, I started out with Planet of the Apes, ended up with 4 beautiful ladies.
Yeah.
It was quite a switch.
But that shows, to be a makeup artist, you are able to do it all.
Well,
And that's what-
remember, in the days when I started, we had a test that was
Right.
a physical test that took 2 14-hour days. And we had to know how to do everything, because when the producer called you up and said, I have a project, you said, okay. You didn't say, well, if it's got hair work, you're going to have to hire a specialist.
Right.
If it has a ball cap, you got to hire a specialist.
Right.
I had a customer come in 2 days ago, and she wanted for Halloween, and she wanted to buy the materials to do a cauliflower ear. She had no idea what she needed. Well, I remember, it's been a long time since I did one,
Right.
but I remembered exactly what she needed for a cauliflower ear. Any of you that are listening, you need a little spirit gum to put on the ear. You need some, what we call mortician's wax to mold it. You need a little gelatin on your finger so that you can not have the wax stick to your finger. That way you can smooth it out. When you get it smooth out the way you want, you need to use a little sealer over that before you put the makeup on.
Right.
Very simple.
Right.
That's it.
So you put it all together for her?
Put it all together for her. It took less than, well, I spent probably 3 or 4 minutes explaining
Right,
it
right.
a couple of times to her.
Right. Did she take a picture of it and come back and show you what she did?
I told her the price of me teaching her how to do it was a picture. And we do get a lot of pictures
That's
after
great.
Halloween for that.
Maurice, tell you worked Golden Girls a
Right.
long time. Tell us some stories about Golden Girls. And that's a show, when it comes on, and it plays on cable all the time,
Yeah.
on different channels. When it comes on, it's the kind of show that you absolutely can't switch away from. It's because you know that the writing is so fresh, and it's going to be, it's really going to be funny. And they were just so terrific
Well,
on it. Tell us about
the
it.
beauty of working on Golden Girls is here you've got 4 ladies who are all in their own right very, very accomplished actresses.
Right.
They all had a beautiful part to play, and each of them were very protective of each other. So much so that when we started midway, they decided they each had their own dressing rooms and their own makeup areas, but they were doing their lines and it wasn't working. So we had a production meeting and I said, I will get the ladies all in one room when I make them up so that they can do their finish rehearsal while we're together. They said, it'll never work. I said, I'll get it to work. They literally built a makeup room that I designed with a door with a lock on the inside. And the ladies were in there, and they were the only one allowed in the room was the director, and that was it. The costume designer could come in. That way the makeup artists, the hairdressers were in there, and we did all of our work. The girls were able to let their hair down emotionally, emotionally and physically, and work and relax if they wanted to, and run the lines if they wanted to. We were able to work much easier on them.
So it was a makeup room / rehearsal hall.
Absolutely. It was one big room where everybody was treated equal. There wasn't one person that was a star that was better than another one. They all came to one room. When they left the room, they each had their own dressing rooms that they could go to on their own. But they were all very protective of each other. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. How did they get along with one another? Because their chemistry on the air, on the show, is so remarkable. Was it that same way in real life?
That's what made the show so good.
Yeah.
What you saw on the air went on off the air. And they were very good with the audiences. I've worked on other shows similar to that over the years, and I've visited other shows. This is a show where I saw a lot of other actors, a lot of other personalities come to visit the show. I would look into the audience and I would see Lucille Ball there. I saw Gene Kelly there.
Great.
And a lot of these people are people I worked with, so I knew them, so I would go and sit down with them and say, what are you doing here? They said, are you kidding? I want to see the show in person. And they did.
But they were so respected. You know, Betty White, you know.
Betty was one of the fastest minds I've ever met.
Yeah,
one of the fastest minds I've ever met on television.
We both, I think you probably did before me, but I worked Password. Remember Password?
Oh, sure.
With Alan Ludden.
The whole world worked with
Password. Yeah, exactly.
Every makeup artist.
We got started at ABC on Password and what was it? The Dating Game and the Newlywed Game.
What was the series? The Days of Our Life.
Days of Our Life.
Yeah.
General Hospital.
General Hospital.
Right. Oh boy, those were the days. Now you worked Star Trek, the original Star Trek.
Yeah, I worked part of the
with Fred Phillips. Did you work with Fred Phillips?
Fred Phillips on the first season, off and on.
How great that must have been.
By then I was day checking. I still was what they call a Group 2.
Right.
So I was really, at that time, I still had my salon business, and I was only allowed to work when all the Group 1
were already,
the journeymen were working.
Right.
And on shows like that, what were some of the Mission Impossible was going.
Johnny Chambers worked on that. And Fred Phillips.
They worked on that too.
Right.
So I would bounce between some of those wonderful classic shows.
Right.
And again, even though sometimes they would call me, I wasn't able to work because there were still some makeup artists available in the union.
Right.
But when all the makeup artists in the union, the journeymen, were working, then
they call you.
Then I could work.
Yeah, but what a great way to go. Let me tell you.
It was wonderful.
How was it working with Fred Phillips? I hear so many great stories about him.
Fred was one of the kind of guys that loved. You know how you said Stan said, "Come over here, let me show you."
Right.
Fred was the kind of guy who always did that.
Yeah.
He knew, and I really feel this is what forced me, and I mean forced me, to be like that my whole life.
Yes.
I find that, especially at this time in my life, I want everybody that I run into to be able to take a little piece of me. And this is why I still teach a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going back to Dubai at the end of the year.
My God, you get around.
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to go to...
Do you have your own jet?
Yeah. I could
Can I
have
rent it?
With all the times.
Do you fly?
No.
Are you a pilot?
God.
You know, I took up flying.
I remember you
You remember
did.
that?
Yeah.
I used to scare my employees to death, you know.
Really?
That's how I would test them. That's how I would. Maybe that's what I need to do now, you know. I should put my people in the airplane, and those who survive it, you know, they can continue working. But I tell you, oh, those were the days. That's really great. What are you doing in Dubai?
We have a distributor there that distributes through the Emirates, my cosmetic line. So I go over there and I teach. And then each time I go to one of these countries, I do some education there. And then I go to their leading burn center.
Yes.
And I donate my time. Like 4 months ago, I was in, I made a trip to Kansas City. And Kansas has a wonderful burn center. Hospital, a teaching hospital there, and I did a seminar for the burn survivors there. Then I took a day off, drove out to see my grandson, who's going to the University of Missouri to study journalism.
That's wonderful.
So
You
it
know,
gave me a day off.
What I love about what you're doing is that you're really involved in giving back and helping people who really need the help in reality, not just film and television
Oh no,
makeup.
it's.
You know, your work with cancer survivors and all, that's...
Well, that's
burn
something, and
victims.
any of you out there that are in an area where you feel you don't get the kind of education that you need, if you put a group of people together, contact me at my own email.
What's your email address?
It's Maurice, Maurice, at cinemasecrets.com.
Okay, Maurice at cinemasecrets.com. And that's it. You know, if you would like Maurice to come to do a class, a special class, and you know, on what is known as medical makeup. You know, do you call it paramedic makeup? I don't really like that.
I've never liked paramedical makeup.
I don't either.
You know what I call it? I call it makeup for all types of skin discoloration.
There you go.
Because I don't cover scars. I don't make a scar go away.
Right.
If you have a scar that is bright red or purple or green,
that you can correct.
Yeah, I can get rid of the discoloration associated with the scar.
But not the three-dimensional.
No.
Yeah.
What it does is it helps to diminish that. See. But it doesn't get rid of it. It just diminishes it.
Yeah, sometimes people think that, you know, when you do that kind of makeup that they're going to lose that three-dimensional aspect of, of the problem. That's not so.
The makeup you use, whether it's your makeup or my makeup or Max Factor's makeup, the makeup is only as good as the education behind it.
That's right.
So,
and the experience.
Well, the experience creates the education.
Well, we can go to the 5 and 10 cent store.
Yeah.
And buy, you know.
And you and I have both done that when we're stuck.
Right, exactly. Let's go through more here. This is, and here's something great. Love Boat. You worked on Love Boat.
Yeah, I worked on a few of those. I was on the very first Love Boat cruise.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. They actually, that show was the show where they experimented using my makeup products for the first time. It was Lee Weiner, I think. It was Lee Weiner. Was it Bob Osterman?
Bob Osterman.
Yes. I'm not sure who else was on the show, but obviously you were on the show.
Yes.
Bob Seidel.
Seidel was on it.
Right. And tell me, are there any good Love Boat stories you have that you can quote? When you get a group of guys together like that, you might not be able to quote it exactly verbatim.
I remember they hired me because one of the guest actresses that was going on the cruise wanted me to go. And I called my wife and I said, guess what? I'm going on the Love Boat cruise. Aren't we lucky? She says, I can't wait. And then I find out that
she's not going.
No, she ain't going. My roommate was not going to be my wife. It was going to be Bob Seidel.
Now, you guys worked together in business as well, right? Wasn't it Bob that did Lemon E?
Yeah, Lemon E cream. Yeah,
right. That was a terrific moisturizer back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it was called Lemon E, and I think it had vitamin E.
Vitamin E. Yeah, it was a vitamin E cream. It was popular for during its time.
Oh yeah.
For about 10 years, I guess.
Right.
Matter of fact, I got my worst sunburn on that cruise because I was working with one actress, and the rest of the time I was on a Love Boat cruise and
Right.
didn't have to do anything. So I think one day I was or the second day, I guess, I wasn't working. I was laying on my stomach on a lounge by the pool, getting paid, reading a book, and I got the worst sunburn behind my knees.
Oh my God.
And couldn't walk.
That's where the lemony
Oh, geez.
cream came in.
Nothing helped. Nothing helped.
Listen, I'm gonna give you a couple names, and you tell me something, any experience you have. Claude Thompson,
Oh, Claude.
head of makeup, original head of makeup for NBC in Los Angeles.
One of the classier makeup artists.
Oh yeah.
The only World War II fighter pilot that I know that was shot down twice and lived to tell.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Harry Blake. Isn't it amazing? We're going from one NBC department head to another.
Yeah, to the next. Claude Thompson was actually the head of NBC
Right.
in the 60s.
Right, and then Harry.
And then Harry Blake took over when Johnny Carson was there.
Yes.
And Harry Blake was not probably, but Harry Blake was my closest friend for many years, and I'm still upset with him for passing away too soon.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
He was Dean Martin's makeup artist and Margaret's, Gene Kelly's, and I can't tell you how many, we had more fun together. There was one time where he was Gene Kelly's makeup artist, I was Fred Astaire's makeup artist on many things, so the four of us spent many fun times together. And they had a birthday party for me one time at Dean Martin's place in Vegas when we were doing Dean Martin's roast.
Right.
And Fred
Great
Astaire.
shows.
Fred Astaire used to always refer to me as the kid. And now they're having a 50th birthday party for me. So I go up to Fred and I say, Mr. Astaire, now that I'm 50, do you think maybe you could stop calling me the kid? He looked at me and he goes with both hands on my cheeks and goes, young man, you'll always be the kid to me.
Oh, that's great.
Which was really sweet.
Yeah, that's really something, I'll tell you.
But
I didn't know that you did Fred Astaire. I had no idea.
I did a lot of men in their later years.
Yeah.
You know, you get known for doing something, and all of a
Right.
sudden you become a specialist.
Right.
And I started getting calls to do a lot of old timers.
Yes.
And that was one of the more depressing parts of my career. I was being interviewed in Florida one time, and they said, can you name a lot of the old male stars that you worked on? And I thought about 10 of them that weren't alive any longer, going back to...
Isn't that awful?
Well, I went back to Groucho Marx and Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly, and because when Harry was gone, I worked with Gene Kelly,
Right.
and Burl Ives, and I'm going, and they were all gone. And I'm going, this is depressing. But pretty soon I'll be doing them again when I'm with them.
Oh, that's great. Now, do you remember Rudy Horvatish at ABC?
Oh,
Now,
Rudy. Yeah, Rudy was fun.
That's, Harry Blake actually started at ABC.
That's where he started. He was the assistant department head at ABC.
Right.
And Rudy always told him that when he retired, Harry would take over at
Right.
ABC, but he got tired of waiting.
Right.
And when Claude decided to retire, Harry said, I'm not waiting any longer. I'm going to NBC.
Right,
And he did.
there you go.
And he was there for
Yeah.
20 years.
20 years, yeah, that's a long time. Maurice, I want to thank you for coming in today. This is really very special. And aside from the look on your face when I walked into your office the other day, after 20 years.
Where's that punk that left his name?
You're the greatest. Again, we'll do this another time, all right? You promise to come back?
I'd love to.
Okay.
And anybody that wants to get a hold of me, my email is easy.
Oh, you have a personal email also.
It's just Maurice at Cinema Secrets.
Maurice at cinemasecrets.com. Maurice at cinemasecrets.com.
And I've got a website that has a lot of educational information on it. And what is that again, Tommy? And it's MauriceStein.com.
MauriceStein.com.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's got a lot of good educational information for
Excellent.
you, too.
You know, you have to come on MUA TV and maybe do a demo for us. You know, something. You know,
I'll do a couple of little unusual things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Good.
Nothing too hard because I'm starting to lose it.
Maybe you know what we can do is we can talk about maybe techniques for the discolorations, skin discolorations. I think that would really be terrific.
I'll show you the way I do the little airbrush eye.
Yeah, let's do that.
You and I
Okay.
were talking
Great,
about.
great. That'll be a real surprise for you guys out there. All right, so on behalf of all of my staff and my crew, and on behalf of the millions of people that are watching us out there around the world, well, it's not millions yet, but it's getting into the high thousands, and it's growing every day. On behalf of all of them, I want to thank you for coming in, and I want to thank you for having such a wonderful father who helped me out in those early days. All right.
Thank you for having me.
This is Joe Blasco with Maurice Stein for MUA TV. That's good.